I want to welcome everyone. Let me give you a quick update about the implementation of digital ruble, Russian currency. My name is Alexei Novikov from the Airstyle Soft Lab company. The company is the developer of software for the financial sector, and we have solutions of the remote for the remote banking, for insurance. In 2023, we decided to build our gateway for digital Russian ruble currency. Very briefly, I'm not going to tell you what the Russian ruble and why we need it. Couple of words about how this what the overall system looks like. There's a platform for digital ruble and people who operate, which is the Bank of Russia, Central Bank of Russia. They have clients. This will be the legal entities and private persons, and also there are banks who are members to this platform, and also financial intermediaries. They are processing all transactions from clients into the Bank of Russia, which is the central bank. It looks like a man-in-the-middle kind of arrangement. And one thing about this, about the whole project of digital ruble, is that for each client you have one single wallet. It doesn't matter what bank you are connecting through, you always be connecting to one and the same wallet. And before I'm going to move on, I would like to ask you, have you ever had it, such a situation when a business comes to you, or some developers come to you, and they need to develop and to implement a certain system, and they say to you, "Hey, can you please draw us the architecture, the safe architecture of how this system is going to be functioning?" We say, "Hey, how can we draw it? Because we have no idea what your system is like. We have no idea what kind of data you'll be processing. We don't know about the size, about the distribution part." And they say, in your terms of reference, they're all the same. The costs and regulatory component. Whatever you draw, you guys are going to cross it, and you're going to redraw it. So draw the final version. Did anybody have this experience, or it's only unique to us? Yeah, some of you did. I would always get mad, and I didn't know why it was happening like that. And then I thought about, how business perceives modern systems, and why this kind of inquiry can actually happen from them today. And speaking of modern systems, looking by the eyes of business, these are such security systems which are performing certain business functions. When we do all the requirements of the regulators, and it looks like we have only protection instruments or IST, and business is like, "Whoa, this looks like a fortress." And secondly, business began to compare the budgets, and also sees that a budget for security sometimes overpasses the budget for the whole system. And now I'm not speaking about big systems, but I'm speaking about relatively small systems. That would be specific, and digital ruble would be one such case in point. Yes, we've developed our gateway for digital Russian ruble. It has the two counters, isolated processing counters, and these two counters, they are making signatures, they are making sure that e-messages are correct, and the control counter communicates only with the Bank of Russia and processing, but the counter of processing with the counter of control, but also it communicates with clients with internal and external systems. Among other things, with authentication centers working within this banking infrastructure under the digital ruble infrastructure. And also there is a mobile app of the remote banking services. It should also be expanded in terms of digital ruble and cryptography. By the way, the counter of control and processing, there is a cryptography. Absolutely no way around this. But But in the mobile application, there is a specific module. It's a program module of the Bank of Russia, and this is a unique development within the and also in the as remote banking services, we've developed everything for RBS, remote banking services, and the clients are saying, okay, we do this in and we are compliant with all the requirements. We're saying, no, you are not, because there are many other requirements about information security, and you have to do this and that. And they say, no, we need some integrated, comprehensive solution, and also security tools, IST. So calculate and tell us what to do. Give us the final amount. So we went to do the homework, and basically we've identified five main focus area or requirements. First, you have to build the protected channel to clients, protected channel to the Bank of Russia, to authentication centers have to be also deployed, and like I said before, these are separate centers. One of them for issuing electronic signatures. It's subordinate to the center of Bank of Russia, and the second one to issue safety certificate, and it will be independent. Also, you have to make sure that this Russian ruble infrastructure should be isolated from other, and also within these contours they have to be isolated. A lot of cryptography, and we have to make sure that it will be working correctly, it should be built in correctly. And then it turned out that there are some other demands or requirements. Well, it looks like there are some free solutions which are distributed by the Bank of Russia, and all of a sudden those free solutions, they are about a lot of manual work and different operators on different stages of when transaction goes to a client. And many banks, they do not have their own authentication centers. They don't have such experience. They don't have any license. And now it looks like we have to go into that story. And even if these banks may have their own authentication center, they have to build the new ones, and they have to update their current licenses. Yes, in documentation to the digital currency, there are requirements how to build certain, parts, but there are some implicit requirements. For example, that everything written in the operating manual for this kind of authentication center, or there could be one line like the ghost or state standard 57 something 8, like it's just a one line. But it means that lots of work, lots of requirements, and other sub-requirements have to be complied with. A lot of IST security tools that have to be embedded. Again, Bank of Russia came up with a paper of how to set up your automation of issuing these certificates, and they mentioned these kind of tools which were not even available at the market, and right now these tools are beginning to show up on the market. Now, when our clients are building these diagrams, when we are building specs and specification, all these requirements, of course, we count them in and we discuss them. And always we insist that, hey, we have to have automation done, because later on we may encounter some problems with our clients that transactions are taking too much time for a transaction to go through. And right here you have such tools as HSMs in authentication centers, without which automation simply would not be possible. All in all, this specification, this diagram depends on what client wants. Do they want to have a backup, distribution, and many other things. And also some additional requirements They come from security divisions. Even in Bank of Russia's document about digital ruble, they say that the tools of delineation and different segments in the network of how they communicate with one another, they have to be approved with information security department. Like if information security of the bank will say that, hey, we have to have encrypted communication channels, this is the way you should build it. And also cryptography. In the project, there are lots of cryptography, but a lot of certified tools which have like a built-in, they have a certification, and you do not have to embed cryptography. There are 3 points. It's a counter control encoder of processing, then automation service, and mobile application. In these fields, you have some development. You have to embed cryptography. Counters of control and processing and automation service, they go under like a channel procedures and channel requirements. And so far, no simplifications yet. It's a long and complex process. For the mobile application, Bank of Russia issued a separate instruction of how to simplify procedure of doing that. Well, very briefly, the lab is doing primary evaluations of mobile applications, identify the borders of the part which cannot be changed. I mean, this like cryptography must not be changed whatsoever. Calculating control sums and give it back. And then the bank, when doing releases, controls that this unchangeable amount or part is not going to be changed, and regularly provides a report to the lab, and lab reports to the Federal Security Service. If they've made a new release, the checksum has changed, okay, it's all over again, you're doing from scratch, then the lab, and then we're trying to define this boundaries of the unchangeable component. Another important moment is what programming language your software is written about, like contours of control and contour of processing. Initially, the requirement was KS2. Since 2025, it's a KS3. So many people I thought about some Java, language, I don't know, some kind of interpretable languages. So if you wrote anything on compiled one, yes, you're good, you're going to get your KS3. If it is written on Java, you are not going to pass it. What Bank of Russia proposes, they propose it like rewrite it on the Axiom Java. But the problem is this solution is not certified by the Federal Security Service. I mean, for it to be complied for the KS3. So either we have to wait for any optimistic forecast, and this is going to be like the end of the year, remains to be seen, or we decided to choose a different thing. When we rewrote the software on a C program, yes, much more complicated, but it's guaranteed at the same time. Next, what Bank of Russia is going to double-check on and how it is happening. Banks are going through this kind of internal self-check. Bank of Russia has developed a checklist, and these requirements listed right here, they are not all a checklist is more. But basically, it's the same. Each bank is, doing this like, okay, check mark, doing the check mark, and done, and then send it to the Bank of Russia. So stage 1, it will be the safe internal control. Probably Bank of Russia is going to double check on this as well. Why? Because there is no real project available. Well, this slide is quite obvious. On the other hand, these are the real scenarios we are facing when working with our clients. The first 4 lines, when a client wants to save as much time as possible and like, let's build the cheapest way possible, just to be able to pass the compliance procedures. But eventually, it becomes like a huge headache for information security, because today business dedicated money, and business assuming, okay, this system is going to work, flawlessly. But then it looks like we are not compliant here, we're not compliant there, we don't have this kind of foolproof, tamper-proof, and the time of a transaction passing through the client is like crazy, and business is shocked, like, why does it take so much time? Because you guys don't have automation, because some of the tools have been implemented, the free tools, and you don't have competences, and people trying to understand how to use this and how to operate these whole systems. A couple of words about import substitution. It's an important project for this state, so we gotta use the import substitution stack. And timeline of the project, usually it takes like at least 10 months. You actually need more time. And even if you, let's say, many of you're not planning to do everything in-house, still there'll be some operations and some works within the scope of your responsibility. Some purchases, there'll be some, I don't know, like laying the cables and some permission, obtaining permissions. So you also can delay this project if these processes are going to take lots of time.
Yes, there's a lot of uncertainties, a lot of misunderstandings. But while the project is not going to start at full scale, we are not going to get answers to all the questions. But from the point of view of information security, there are interesting things. For example, the software module of the Bank of Russia. It's a tool to store in-app keys on the user devices. It was developed for the ruble, but this technology will be developed in the future. Simplification of the assessment of the influence, well, for the one part in digital ruble, but there are certain hopes that this procedure will be simplified in the future for some other directions, because this is a very complicated and a painful procedure for many. Generally, that's all I wanted to tell you, and I do hope it was interesting, useful, and it became more understandable what should you pay attention to when realizing and completing projects. Here's my Telegram. You can see it on the screen. If you have any questions to your colleagues, please come and I'll answer them. Thank you very much.